So I just want to be clear first. To be clear, we are not upset with the individuals who are being allowed to cross the borders into America. Let me make that very clear because people get it confused. We are, however, outraged with the government's response and our elected officials' blatant disregard to the local crisis Black families and children are facing now in our city. It is disingenuous and highly disrespectful to come into neighborhoods that have suffered decades of disinvestment, redlining, poverty, and violence to tell them you're taking resources away only to give it to another group of people that you allowed to cross the border illegally. How dare you put these poor people against us, especially because the very reason you claim they're here to seek asylum is the same reason and terror and injustice Black people face today. Chicago is working on an issue without addressing the current issue that it has with the communities that are suffering. And we're seeing resources fly out to help, but we're not getting that same type of support at the magnitude we're seeing now. And to expect us to foot the bill and hand over our already limited resources, public parks and school buildings that have been unjustly closed in the first place. Now you're putting a strain on our police officers and stations, obstructing their ability to do their jobs, serve our community, and our community to go into police stations to receive services. In addition, it's inhumane to welcome people only to have them sleeping on floors in buildings and in tents that cannot withstand the wind of Chicago. Brandon Johnson ran on the promise that he would listen to our community. And in the beginning of this crisis stated that he would not re-traumatize those communities that are still suffering from the impact of school closing, redline, and violence. We are here today demanding that the city of Chicago and Brandon Johnson stop disrupting park programs, taking away from our children and families that depend on those services. We want him to stop using public school buildings as housing because they're not zoned as such. And specifically for this building was promised to the community, and our children deserve a high school. A high school, we want to reopen this as one because we do not have a neighborhood high school. That school over there is not a neighborhood school. It's a selective enrollment that actually restricts our neighborhood kids from going. So that's a violation of our civil rights, and we want this building. We pay taxes for it. Yes. We are also demanding a full independent audit of how our tax money is being spent.
That's right.
We still have a homeless crisis. Black Americans have the highest rate of homelessness, including youth. We want to know how they're being housed, if they're being housed, what money is being spent on them. We need to know how money is being spent on our education system. Well, we now see that Chicago public schools and all city agencies are focusing on migrant children.
That's right.
Migrant children deserve to have equal access to education, and so does Black children who have historically been denied that right. This is an example of that. Building being closed when there's high school students all around here who have to travel far to go to school. My daughter travels 15 miles outside of her neighborhood to go to school. How dare the city of Chicago try to take this building, make her walk past a building that they're giving to people they're allowed to come here illegally, and have her go past a half-empty building on the corner that she can't go to school. And she is a symbol of majority of Black children in the city of Chicago that are being denied rights, that are not being seen in this crisis that has been engineered. Again, we're not here saying we're against individual people who cross this border. We're mad at our government for putting them against us.
That's right.
Because that is what's happening.
That's right.
Plain and simple.
Yes.
The residents of South Shore deserve a high quality high school. We deserve services. Our parks deserve to be open. We have present here people from Taylor Park. Taylor Park is located in the Robert Taylor community. We all know what happened with Robert Taylor, right? Mm-hmm. Thousands of Black Americans were displaced, and the city of Chicago has been threatening these poor families to take away their park. That's not fair. They have football teams, they have the cheerleading teams. Their kids are engaged socially. They need those services. Let's talk about the West Side. Last night, you guys saw the West Side. We were proud of them.
That's right.
If no one can understand, their Black family can understand why they turned up in that meeting. Because it is still an injustice. It is an injustice, it's disingenuous, and it's not right for these people to come into our communities when we are suffering now. Brandon Johnson, go on your word. You cannot be elected into this office and ignore the people who got you here.
That's right.
We're not playing with you.
Say that again.
So today, we're here to say we want justice. We want the city to be more transparent. We want you to stop blatantly throwing the migrants anywhere.
Right.
We don't want tents built in Roseland.
That's right.
We don't want our park programs being taken away.
Send them back.
And we want the city to work with our community in a genuine manner. So today we have, like I said, we have people here who are going to speak from various communities, but we also want to talk about our lawsuit. We're going to first have Frank Avila come up to talk a little bit about the lawsuit, and after him, we're going to have a resident, Jimmy Jones.
Hey, Frank Avila. Hey.
Hey, Frank.
How you doing? You know me, Frank.
I do know you.
All right, then.
Good afternoon. My name's Frank Avila. I'm the attorney for Natasha Dunn, who's one of the plaintiffs. Dr. Jones is one of the plaintiffs, and the South Shore neighbors. The first thing that this lawsuit is about is for South Shore High School to reopen as a high school for this community.
Yes.
And if for some reason that was not possible, which is what they want, not what I want, not what some other community wants, what this community wants, is it for it to be reopened for community purposes.
That's right.
When Rahm Emanuel was mayor, 80% of the school closings were in African American areas.
Right.
And although he will argue that it was because of a decrease in African American population, which may be partially true, he did not care about the communities and what happened in them, and the resources were taken out. This community has a food desert. It's higher in crime than average of other parts of the city. And by the way, somebody came on and attacked me when we were in a press conference last time and said, oh, you're saying the people in back of you are criminals. No, that's not what I'm saying. Although some people are criminals who reformed their lives, very few, and they said, now we are reformed our lives and we are ex-convicts. But I'm not saying the people in back of me are criminals. What I'm saying is they recognize that some of them live in higher crime areas. I'm not sure why people cannot understand that nuance, why they can't understand the distinction, and they want to divide people and not have any nuance, any complexity, and simplify the issues. So the first thing, and I'm going to repeat it, is to turn this school back into a school, a high school for this community, so people don't have to travel 15 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, and they can stay here. And for this building to be for the community, which was promised to them, a commitment, an oral contract, a contract with this community. The second thing is, and this community and these plaintiffs also care about the migrants themselves. And this immigration industrial complex and these poverty pimps don't care. Because after the state has spent $500 million, $350 million a quarter, the city of Chicago has allocated or spent $100 million, first $30 million, then $51 million, and now $20 million for a security company. You should not have people sleeping in tents outside when winter is coming. Winter is coming. You should not have people sleeping on police room floors when you've spent $600 million. That's crazy. I could have put them in the Drake, the Peninsula, the Ritz-Carlton, and the Palmer House, saved the taxpayer dollars 75%, spent 25% of that, give myself $1 million salary. All my friends could have got salaries and fed them, and everybody would be fine. This is an outrageous amount of money, and there needs to be an audit now. There needs to be an audit.
You just said something.
Now, Moreover, there also needs to be a commensurate investment into long-term residents, including immigrants, this community, African American communities, low-income communities, and communities that have been deprived of resources, where there's food deserts and crime and lack of schools and lack of opportunities, including South Shore, including the West Side. My son boxes at Taylor Park, which they're gonna want to take over and in that program. In Petrowski Park, which is in Little Village, which is heavily Mexican-American community, Hispanic, mostly Mexican, with a good amount of undocumented, they've ended programs for children. I've gotten calls from parents of autistic adults who are now aged out of the school system, and they've ended their programs. This is not residents versus migrants or citizens versus migrants. This is about putting migrants in residential housing. McCormick Center at 3,000 beds was actually for a quasi-residential. You don't put them in tents outside in Chicago winters. You don't put them on floors of police stations. Moreover, one of the reasons why some places have high crime, one, it's inhumane for people to live on floors of police stations where you don't have showers or sanitation, where you have people coming in and out of germs, where you don't have proper bathrooms, etc. It's bad for the police officers who are living in unsanitary conditions, unsafe conditions that are not OSHA. OSHA should come in and shut that down. And how can we have public security and safety and police properly preventing crime or resolving crime and having a police presence when now they're residential housing?
Yep, that's right.
Somebody is making money off of this.
Yeah, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Show us the money.
And there needs to be an audit. This community needs to be protected. Other communities need to be protected. This is not black versus Hispanic. This is not immigrant versus citizen. This is about what's doing right. This is about what's being humane and being sensible and fiscally responsible. And this is about not ignoring communities. Now, we filed a lawsuit back in May, and it did temporarily stop. The city did not put any migrants into South Shore School. And maybe we thought we won. But now there's buses and buses coming in, and we had information that they were going to now put people here, and we decided to refile it, make it better, amend the complaint, refile a new suit that was more comprehensive, and also address some of the concerns and some of the responses and answers that people had. So, and I know some of you had questions on that. So we've sent the lawsuit out. I can send you all copies today too after this. And the lawsuit a new lawsuit has been filed. And we may add other communities to this lawsuit. We haven't decided yet. The priority for this lawsuit for me as a lawyer is my clients and the South Shore neighbors and South Shore High School. However, this is a broader issue, both to help the migrants and to help other communities. People should not be living in parks and city colleges and schools. Benito Juarez in Pilsen, which was an Hispanic community until it was gentrified, is now they want to put people there. Now, should adults be with high school students? Should we take out gyms so people cannot have programs in sports? This doesn't make any sense. This is illogical, it's stupid, it's bad policy, it's bad decision making.
And they're undocumented.
And also, it's a federal issue. It's a federal issue. The federal government needs to fund it, and the federal government needs to take all these migrants, vet them properly, and make sure there's standards, and then disperse them throughout the 300 or so municipalities, as well as suburban, rural, small town areas throughout the United States. Not just New York City and Chicago. Not just New York City and Chicago.
Right? They did that, right? You know about the tourists? The tourists, what they did to Native Americans? They're doing the same thing again. They're doing the same thing again, bro. They're illegal, right? They're illegal. Right now, Brandon Johnson and the Democrats are criminals. You're locking up guys from smoking and drugs and trafficking people across the thing. The bad government's doing it. Right now.
Right.
We're going to sue the bosses. We're going to sue the Democrats as civilians because they're supposed to be agents representing the people they voted for. The agents. I'm a sports agent. If I don't have represent my clients, they fire me.
Yeah.
It's time to fight. Don't let the Democrats have that stupid convention here next year.
That's it.
Enough's enough. All I see, right? All I see, right, is the citizens of Chicago marching to the gas chamber. Ever since these scumbags came across the border. Ever since these European scumbags came across the border.
Come on with
Thank
it.
you. We appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank you for your point.
Okay, let me say this. Thank you for that. I want to bring this back because we're saying a lot, right? Okay, but to be clear again, he's right. There's a lot that's happened. A lot of that anger and outrage that you see is warranted, right? I mean, we've been through so much in our communities that when we see stuff like this is traumatic for us. This is traumatic for the people in our community. So we want to have Jay come up real quick, and then we're going to have someone from Woodlawn speak, and then we're going to ask questions. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Jay Darnell Jones. That is J period DARNELLJONES. And I am a co-plaintiff on this lawsuit. And I am also the president of the South Shore Park Neighborhood Association. We are here to protect the legacies of our community, period. The lawsuits that we have filed was not necessarily meant to be a catalyst for other lawsuits around the country, but if that happens to be the case, so be it. While we have been doing our research for the information that we have provided, of course we found systemic issues in that research. We know that it's not just South Shore High School or South Shore that's impacted by the items listed in our lawsuit. For our purposes though, as Natasha mentioned, we have students, we have children in our community who lives in that house or this house, who walk right past this school every day, or whose parents drive them past this school every day to spend an hour in traffic just to get them to school. We as a community were sold on a negative dream with regard to selective enrollment schooling. Selective enrollment schooling in South Shore means we have children who are in the school building right around the corner that are not even from our community. How are we as a community to engage them? How are we as a community to support the school when the school has no interest in us? That's our question, and that's what we are trying to answer in our lawsuit against the Chicago Public Schools. We want to make sure if they look at the data that we have, there is no reasonable explanation as to why this school should not be a community school. Also, in terms of the migrant situation, initially it was, oh, you guys are anti-migrant. That is not the case. That is not the case. Regardless of where someone comes from, that is correct. They need to be treated with dignity, kindness, and open arms. We do know the impact of mass immigration on black communities. I said that in the first press conference we had back in May, and I'll say it again. That hasn't gone anywhere. It's been ignored, but it hasn't gone anywhere. The other items that we have spoken about and that our lawsuit speaks about is the fact that swimming or drowning is one of the second leading causes of death for teenage or adolescent youth, black youth. There's an Olympic-sized swimming pool in this school. So without the access to programs like swimming in this building, we are harming our children. Without us being able to manage who comes into our communities, and not just inside the building. Remember, they told us they had rules and regulations for migrants inside the building, but not outside the building. So when they touch us, there are no rules and regulations that are going to be followed. There's no 24-hour police presence. There's no any of that that was promised to us in that meeting back in May or April or whenever it was. But the bottom line is this. As the representative for the South Shore Park Neighbors Association, I say our number one interest is this community. It is this community, it is the safety of our community, it is protecting the legacies of those who came before us in this community, and it is to make this high school a community high school so that our kids are safe, our parents are not overly overly harmed by having to travel so far out of the community. It is to provide time for families to spend together and not be in traffic all day. It is to provide time for our children to have study time versus being so tired for having to travel for extracurricular activities and other activities. So this is, again, about South Shore Park neighborhood. It's about us. It's not about anything else that you may hear out there. Thank you.
Hi, okay, thank you. So we're gonna, so while this particular lawsuit, we also are welcoming other communities into this conversation because we all have something in common. We're all really upset, for lack of a better word, about what's happening across the city of Chicago. And we recognize that as a collective, you know, standing together is that much more powerful. So I have someone represented from Woodlawn, Roseland, and then we'll take questions.
My name is Andre Smith, ANDRE-SMITH. I'm the first person to stop the bus with the migrants in Wadsworth.
Okay.
Today
Thank
is a sad day in Chicago.
you. Yes, you're right.
Just the other day, we were going through COVID.
Yeah.
Just the other day, we was going through COVID, losing our loved ones, separated from our family members and our friends. That's trauma. We haven't even got over that. Now this, schools are not being schooled, children are not being taught, parks are not being parked where kids can go and play, and police stations are not policing.
That's right.
All of them have one thing in common.
What's that?
They are hotels and shelters.
Uh-huh.
Our taxpayer dollars did not grow up. I mean, did not go. We didn't pay our taxes for that.
Not at all.
Not at all.
We did not grow up as kids with a dream or a vision for what Chicago looked like right now, Brandon
That's right,
Johnson.
these niggas are every damn where.
So we're calling on the mayor and the governor
Whoa.
to freeze the language of sanctuary city.
Freeze it.
Wait.
That's right. That's right.
When you go to court, you gotta have grounds.
You gotta have ground.
Grounds is because there's no plan.
That's
We
right.
gonna get
There
one.
was no plan.
That's
And
right.
there still today is no plan.
No plan.
And then we want you to show us the money. Anyone else would have been in federal penitentiary.
That's right. Stealing that damn money.
The U.S. Marshals would have went and got them.
Yeah.
So we asking
Tell 'em
Brandon
that.
to be
Where's-
transparent.
Yeah.
We asking the governor to be
Eyes,
transparent.
eyes.
Because how in the world over $6 million been spent
Yeah.
and there's no accountability?
No accountability. Eyes, come here, eyes. Sit all the ass back.
Yeah.
All of them. I don't feel sorry for them. Them little babies, they rent anyway.
Good evening. My name is Tanisha Peoples. That is Tanesha Peoples, Peeples, and I reside on the far south side of Chicago in Roseland. Why are we here today? We're here today in the name of democracy, justice, and morality. We're here today because we have repeatedly told our elected officials no, and they've repeatedly ignored us. We're here today because us taxpayers are stuck with bills that we did not co-sign for. We're here today because checks have been written without our say-so, and when we ask where our money's going, we get no answers. We're here today because generations of historically marginalized communities who have pleaded for asylum for ourselves have been ignored. Given the aforementioned reasons, we're here today with this lawsuit because we must finally force the people that are supposed to represent us for once to operate in our best interest. Someone posed a question on social media asking if Chicago should rescind its sanctuary city
Yes.
status.
Yes, they should.
And that's when it dawned on me that Chicago isn't a sanctuary city.
That's right.
It's a business masking itself as a
Right.
safe harbor for
That's
new
right.
asylum seekers. Think about who benefits from an influx of migrants and how their benefit serves
The
as a
rich white.
disadvantage and a detriment to taxpayers and historically marginalized communities. The beneficiaries are the companies that get the contracts to do the busing,
That's right.
build tents, housing, and provide other
Any
services.
black people getting that money?
That's right.
No.
The labor industry that can recruit migrants for
Catholic
low-wage
charities,
work.
they no damn
Politicians,
good.
specifically flailing Democrats, who
That's
hope to
right.
win the newcomer support
No
and
damn
quid
good
pro quo
Democrat.
for providing asylum. This is why there's a rush to expedite work permits,
That's right.
IDs, and policies for asylum
That's
seekers
illegal.
to be able to
That's
vote.
illegal.
Yeah,
That's
say
illegal.
that.
And finally,
Can't get no job.
And finally, the teachers union, whose membership and power will increase as the need for more educators, particularly those who specialize in ELL, grows because the student population grows. Ask yourself the question, why did the teachers union travel to Venezuela in 2019?
No, we gonna check the teachers union.
So-
we gonna check the teachers union.
So who
They ain't the
loses?
only union in town.
Mhm.
They ain't the only union in
All
town.
right. So
Okay?
who loses in this
I'm
deal?
a union man.
People in historically marginalized communities that
I'm
will
a
end
union
up.
man.
Sir, can I finish? Thank you. People in historically marginalized communities that will end up displaced or pushed out due to internal battles over housing and other critical resources. People in my community on the far south side of Chicago who've endured homelessness, blight, desolation, and oppression in the form of food apartheid at the site where the city proposes a migrant encampment be built. Our young and elderly people who can't enjoy their extracurricular activities at parks, public spaces that have served as safe havens in the city that has harmed them in every turn. And I want to highlight yesterday when the young people took a knee in defiance
Yes.
of the city's plan
Yes.
to remove their after-school programs. We see what's happening in the streets.
Right.
So what the city is telling these young people is we're going to take away your extracurricular activities
No,
and
that
turn
ain't
you over to
happening.
these streets.
Yeah.
That ain't
So they
happening.
want more blood on their hands.
We're not gonna let it.
That's what they're telling us.
Yeah,
We're not
that's
gonna
right.
let it.
Black kids.
Everyone that suffers from inhumanity due to reckless decisions made on behalf of our representatives. So this fight isn't against other marginalized groups. We empathize with their struggle as people that have suffered 404 years of poverty, racism, marginalization, and state-sanctioned violence in this country that we built. It's against the callous handling and denial of long-sought asylum for black people. It's about respect, fairness, equity, morality, and humanity. It's against representatives that have never represented us. And right now, right here, right now, we're demanding that representation from our elected officials, whether they're wanting to do it or not.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, we're gonna have one more
Very good.
speaker from Taylor Park. She's gonna represent Taylor Park.
Hi everybody, thank y'all for allowing us to come and speak. My name is Marjani Williams. I'm here representing myself, honestly, and my son. We've been trying to do this work to save Taylor Park in the Brownsville community. I don't know if folks are familiar with Taylor Park, but it is named after Robert Taylor for the Robert Taylor homes that were demolished and thousands of black folks were displaced and never really put back into place in our communities. And so I come here on behalf of the young people in that community, the seniors, everybody who has stood up, and all of these folks here I stand with because we're here with a very clear and direct message. I don't believe that Venezuelan folks are to blame for this mess. I believe that a lack of planning has exacerbated this disaster, and now it is coming on the backs of black folks and other underrepresented folks who have been in the city of Chicago for years and years and generations and not had the level of support that we are seeking, but that we're now watching unfold for other folks. And so it's not a zero-sum game. We're not asking for folks to be harmed or any of that. That's never been our message. And I could speak for me and my son. We're here trying to save these kids' lives. It is not about us wanting to hold on to something so tight. Because if you've ever been to Taylor Park, it's not the nicest place, but it's our place. It's the place where our kids can come 5, 6, 7 days a week. And the old school Robert Taylor home, crowd can come. And there's peace. There is no gunfire. There is no fighting. There is no chaos as how our kids are being depicted, rioting or like that's not what we're seeing. we're seeing a safe haven where we got kids that are even coming from other neighborhoods to this location because it is so highly respected and coveted. And folks from Robert Taylor will tell you that's sacred ground. So what we're here to do is advocate on behalf of our community, and I don't believe that we need to be depicted as anti-anything. If I'm anti-anything, I'm anti-racist. I'm anti all of these ridiculous policies that are continuing to oppress and suppress black folks in this city. And what we're calling for today is to be heard. We're constantly hearing that, oh, we hear you, we're taking this back to the city, we're taking it back to somebody, we're taking it back. Well, let's take it all the way back to where we've put our demands on the table for years. We've asked for capital improvements for buildings. We've asked for schools not to be closed. We've asked for more resources for our young people. I'm raising a young black son in the city of Chicago. So if anybody understands how difficult that is, that we're fighting an uphill battle, then you understand, well, my folks here understand exactly where we're coming from. Because when you see in the headlines, it's 15 kids shot in a weekend, they're not going to tell you that they were straight A students. They're not going to tell you what park they've been playing football for. They're not going to tell you how they've been raising their siblings and helping their mamas and daddies and grandparents. You don't see that. All you see is another black body in the street. And so we're done fetishizing, you know, Chicago violence and the lack of resources and calling us underrepresented and under whatever. We're going to be overly heard, and that's why we're doing this, because it's not about us versus them. This is about us. At the end of the day, this is about equity for folks who live in the city of Chicago, who were born and raised here. This is about equity for people who have been asking for what we deserve. We're not here begging for anything that does not already belong to us. I wish I knew exactly how many taxes I paid in this city over the years, but I guarantee you, it's enough that my son should be able to go and play at the park district, or that he should have a quality school in his neighborhood, and that he should be able to walk from one block to the next without worrying about fear or violence or any kind of inhumane consequences that are going to hinder his growth and his potential. I saw the young man last night at the West Side meeting, and it brought a tear to my eye. He stood up on that podium, on that dais in front of all of those folks who are elected officials and put in places of position, and he held his ground, and he advocated for all those other young people who will not be heard, who are not being paid attention to, because there is a political agenda. That's what's not being talked about here. There is a clear political agenda, and we see what's happening here. We understand exactly what's being done to us, without us. We're having meetings being held the day before, you know, decisions have already been made weeks before, and they're coming to us under the guise of, we want to hear your voice. But when we stand up and make our voices heard, it's not prim and proper the way that they want to hear it. It's not the way that is socially acceptable for some folks. And quite honestly, it's a song and dance. They do it to appease us, but when we stand up together and we bring our babies out here so they can use their voices and they can be seen and heard, and we make it clear that we're not anti-immigrant, that we are pro our communities and we are pro equity in this city, then there is no argument. There should be no further argument about what we are demanding here. And that's equity and that's fairness for the people and the residents of Chicago to not just have a seat at the table, but for us to be the table together. We are the table. We are the table. These are our representatives. And so if it's going to be a problem with them representing us in the way that we are asking to be represented, then you're just going to see more of these groups of folks gathering together. You're going to see more of this community activism and more of this advocacy, because we're not going to stop until somebody gives us a solid plan for our babies and for our communities, because they got a plan for our money. 10 out of 10. They got a plan for our tax dollars,
A plan for our money.
but they don't have a plan for our babies. And when you ask for a plan, oh, well, we're working with somebody else. I don't want to hear about nobody else working on nothing unless it's a plan to move everybody forward. And so I come and stand before y'all as humbly as I can on behalf of my community, Bronzeville, which I love, on behalf of my son and all the other little black boys and black girls that are running around this city looking for resources, trying to keep out of trouble, trying not to be killed by police, trying not to be racially profiled, trying to get a job, trying to make a life for themselves. That's who I'm here standing up on behalf of. And I appreciate everybody here today who's coming out to use their voice in whatever way possible to make sure that we are very clear on what our position is. And that's for our families, our communities, and our futures, which are these babies. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Marjani, can you spell your name first?
Sure. My first name is Marjani, Marjani. My last name is Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marjani, my son boxes
At Taylor? Oh, that's awesome. My son plays football.
So we also had someone that was coming from the west side. They got stuck in all that traffic. But you see, we're united in this. So one thing I can say, if we say what's good coming out of this, it's the fact that our community is coming together, and we're understanding, and we're using our voices so that we can really create and chart our own narrative. The final thing that we are asking for from the city of Chicago is for Brandon Johnson to fulfill his commitment to fully funding and creating an office of Black Americans.
Oh, yeah.
We also are asking for Brandon Johnson and his hand-picked elected school board, hand-picked school board. We're asking for them, and we're asking for our state representatives and our senators to create a standing committee within the Board of Education to close the gaps of Black students. It is vital that our community have access to City Hall, to the state, so that we can be at the table charting our path forward. Because as you heard from the sister from Taylor Park, as you heard from Andre from Woodlawn, as you heard from Tanisha from Roseland, as you heard from Jay from South Shore, as you heard from Frank, as you heard from me, our community, we want to be at the table. We have voices, we have solutions, we know what's best. But one thing we're gonna say is we do not want to be overburdened by migrants being put in our neighborhoods. So there's questions, we can ask questions now.
I want to give you a chance just to respond to the mayor's press conference this afternoon. He tried to make the point, and I'm paraphrasing, that what the city is trying to do for the migrants and getting them off the floors of the police station cannot even be compared to the long-standing plight and disinvestment in the Black community. He's trying to say these are two different situations. Are they two different situations, or are they connected?
Well, they're actually two different situations, because Black people, right? Well, we've been we're Americans first. First, we've been here for a long time, and we built this country. And if you want to go back 400, 500 years, we were not bought here because we wanted to, right? And even during all that time, systems have consistently taken away from us, right? They've consistently created barriers for us to prevent us from growing as a community and being independent as we want to be, right? And so that's a little different right there. The other thing is too is that this is a welcoming city. This is something so you knew this was a welcoming city when you took this job. The resources that he's taking away from one community to give to another is unacceptable. There should have already been a plan for them. It is inhumane that these people are laying on the floor. I'm sure they didn't come here for this. You know, and it's really sad seeing this, but what we are saying though is, again, it's sad, we empathize, but our community literally is in its own humanitarian crisis. When you have kids dying every week, CPS children every weekend, and the way people portray it, like she said, these are not kids that's just hanging out all the time. Some of these kids are kids that's going home. They're straight A students, honor roll students. We had a kid a month ago who was preparing to go to high school. He lives in the Calumet Heights community. He was an honor roll student preparing for his freshman year of high school, had his book bag packed before school, was walking home and got robbed and killed. This is all too often in our community. We're in a war. A lot of you all don't understand that black people we're at war. And then when you tell us that you're gonna bring in some new people and put them on top of us without addressing our problems, what the hell do you think we're gonna do? Sit back and let it happen? No. We're gonna turn up in every meeting you're gonna have. We're going to disrupt every meeting until we get what we are owed. That's simple.
Also that he was going to take a team himself so he can go see firsthand at the border what's going on. How do you react to that?
I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I mean, he should have been exactly. I think that's what I was gonna say. He should be taking himself to helping the community here and making sure that he is handling the crisis that's here. I mean, you got people on police state, the police department cannot do their jobs, and we need them to do their jobs because guess what? This city is off the chain. Everybody's experiencing crime. You know what I'm saying? So like, no, if he's going there to do that, I just feel like that's a distraction. He should have probably been did it, number one. But number two, we need him to take this same effort and energy to stop our kids from getting killed on the street and from our schools to be poorly funded, to be taken away from us, and for the unemployment rate of its citizens, of our citizens, to go up. Like, we need to see that first.
I have a question for, I guess, Frank. What's the status of, you said the lawsuit was being amended. And
We amended, it's filed.
So it has been filed?
Yes, it has.
County.
It's amended. Well, it's a new lawsuit because we filed with the law division. So we filed our first complaint. The city actually never moved any people in. So we had a victory, kind of, right? But now there's literally 200,000 more people coming, buses coming to Chicago every day. And we got word that they were going to move them in now, even though the city had already said, hey, it's kind of moot. We're not putting them in here. We're using other locations. So there's two issues there. One, I'm focused on this issue because that's what I'm hired to do. But secondly, for the migrants themselves, they shouldn't be in schools and police stations and parks. They need to be in residential housing. Right. And there's enough vacancies, apartments, hotels, places where they can be put. Yes, it has, and I can send it to you. Yes, about 2 weeks ago in Cook County Law Division. Yeah.
Can you tell us just briefly, what an amendment, one of those amendments is?
Well, I think one of the most important amendments is also not asking just for the migrants not to come to the school, but for the school to be reopened and or used for community purposes. There was an oral contract that we think is enforceable to make this building for the community. And that promise, that contract, that commitment needs to be fulfilled.
Does it seek to block migrants not just here, but at other schools and other
Not at this time. We have been in discussions with other people, and I don't want to use the term blocking migrants because that's not what we're doing. We don't want migrants to come here or any school or floor or tent. They should be in residential housing across the United States. Okay, first of all, these are not homes. This is not zoned. It doesn't have permits. This is not residential housing. Okay? So we're not blocking anybody. They should not be coming here because they should not be coming here.
Right. That's it.
And the amount of money that has been spent, 80% going to salaries, that doesn't need to happen. You don't need 80% going to salaries. That is to be audited. We should see who's making the money and if there should be any investigation and accountability for these people. So the second part is, yes, this should not be housing because it's not housing. The second part, it should be given to the community, okay? But then the third part is pro-migrant. And that means they should be giving humane conditions, not police floors, not tents in Chicago winter, and not in parks or schools. Because Mayor Brandon Johnson won because of the African community. Paul Vallis got most of the white ethnic vote. He got most of the Hispanic vote. Brandon Johnson won because of the African American community. When crimes happen, he says that well, this is from a position of anguish and we need programs. Well, how do you have programs if you shut down programs at parks and schools? You can't shut down a park and then say, I want to bring programs for kids.
Right, exactly.
Where are they going?
Okay, we pay taxes for parks. Doesn't mean the federal government can never help a migrant. I think they should. But it means they should be helped in a proper fashion by having programs for kids in the parks, schools for the kids, for the schools, and then putting people in proper housing. McCormick Center had 3,000 beds during COVID. They weren't even used, and ventilators. That's a place that possibly could have been used, where there were people that had beds. I'm not saying that's the place. I'm just saying that's a possibility. But taking over a park and canceling kids programs or autistic adults is not proper.
Let me real quick. I'm sorry, I know we're in questions, but I want to just bring our West Side people because you need to see the unity that we have. This is someone from the last night meeting. She's from that community. And she's a leader in that community, her and her husband.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for welcoming me out here with you all today. And one of the great things that came out of this is that you'll see a united front between the South Side and the West Side. We are standing together, united. This is something that you've never seen before in this city. The South Side and the West Side come together for a common cause.
Yeah.
I'm standing here tonight with buyer's remorse because I supported Mayor Brandon Johnson. I feel like a fool right now. I feel like a plum fool. But I tell you what, it's okay. Because as I said last night, you can slap us in the face by ignoring us today, but we are punching you in the face by ignoring you at the polling places tomorrow. We will not be disrespected. Now you think about this. I come from the same neighborhood that Mayor Johnson says he comes from. And you mean to tell me that you don't respect us enough to come and sit down with us and have a conversation? It's unacceptable. But that's okay, you see, because what you have done is you have caused us to rise up.
Yes.
You have caused us to come together. You have caused us to unite.
That's right.
You think you have unitability with CTU? You haven't seen us. You haven't seen the monster that you have created. But we thank you. We thank you because for years and years and years, we have been trying to unite our communities. So we thank you, Brandon Johnson, because you've just done that. You may not thank us tomorrow, but I promise you, you're going to remember these people here. We will not be defeated. We will not be bamboozled. We will not be disrespected. Thank you for your time. My name is Cata, C-A-T-A. Last name is Truss, T-R-U-S-S, and I am from the Austin community. Thank you.
One more thing the lawsuit asked for is an audit of the money. We're asking for an audit of the money, how much has been spent, where it's been spent, how it's been allocated, a complete forensic audit.